And if that was the only thing that was wrong with me and Carnivore fixed that, I mean, be dancing on tables. I have this Carnivore channel. Why? Because I want you to get to know me and how I can maybe help you. Hello everybody, this is Joanna. I am at the dog park with my dog. That's Lucky. And it's in a beautiful spot. You can see the water behind me, and I'm preparing a video for you guys, and it's all about the laundry list of symptoms that I have been getting through, suffering and getting through, and managing to get out the other side of. And while I was putting together the list to make sure I had remembered everything, it wasn't very emotional. I just saw this really long list growing, and I had thoughts about that because I've never written a list before. In my first interview on a Carnivore channel, I got tripped up a little bit by, and what have you healed with Carnivore? And honestly, I could only remember 2 or 3 large symptoms. So I went through, I've made a list and I'm creating the video. And as I was thinking about creating an introduction for this video, I started to get a little emotional about these symptoms. So I figure maybe going through all of these symptoms and having to deal with them relatively alone, and figure out my own solutions, may very well have left a few little scars. So this video might take a little while to put together, because as I do, I might very well be discovering things that I need to uncover and discover and feel my way through. So I'll let you know how it goes. So I'd rather believe, oh, we're not like the door, we're just a little early. Okay, we're driving home after our little afternoon sunshine break, and I'm still contemplating thinking about the trauma, little t trauma, the forgotten emotions of going through a really hard event, and you're the only one going through it. And of course there are people around you who might be noticing that you're going through it, but a lot of us are not going through it with other people who are also going through it. You go through your stuff when you go through your stuff. And sometimes I think maybe we don't see the emotional recovery as valid, because it wasn't a person aggressing on us, it wasn't a person treating us badly, it wasn't us making a mistake. It's just something that happened. It just happened. And it's just been happening to you. And because of that, perhaps we put it in the bad luck category. So if we put it in the bad luck category, then maybe it wasn't meant to happen. Maybe just by chance, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't anybody's fault, it just happened. And perhaps you don't want to fall into the poor me, and so you don't You decide not to be poor me, and you decide to get yourself through it, whichever way you need to get through it, and you do what you have to do. And then, of course, you're moving on, because if you're either in the problem or you solve the problem, you get through the problem and out the other side, and it gives you freedom, and you move on. And you move through, and you find something more exciting to be doing other than solving your problems. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's really, it's a freedom that you should savor the taste of. But I do think we forget, pardon me, I do think we forget that we just went through something really major, and we will have made conclusions or confirmed beliefs and ideas we have about ourselves through going through this. Perhaps even some of the beliefs that we have about ourselves caused the way we went through the trauma, the illness, the struggle, which is kind of another video. But it's never too late. It's never ever too late to revisit your memories and revisit the feelings, the emotions that are connected to those memories. This is what I do with people. People come into a coaching session, they tell me what it is that they're not able to achieve. I ask some interesting, probing questions, and they end up realizing things that, well, they'd never thought about that situation in that way. What I seem to do is be able to connect the dots of a broader spectrum of life, whereas most people are thinking of each event that happens is its own thing, and it's not connected to anything else, except everything's connected to everything. So the way that you think about yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the conclusions you've made previously about yourself, because of events that have happened, are going to become the foundation for the experiences that come after it. That's just how it works. So you will have experiences from when you were born all the way through, and each experience that is significant is going to create like a scaffold for you to use as expectations in your life. And so if you've been through a significant experience of illness, and perhaps you had like a miraculous recovery, or you might have just had a very slow recovery like I have, you really do deserve to pay yourself just that little bit of attention and discover what residual effects your belief structures are going to have on your future experiences, and whether we're talking about belief structures prior to illness or ones that you have been confirming via living through your experience. Maybe you've created some new belief structures pardon me. Maybe you've created some new belief structures that are exposing previous belief structures as lies. Maybe there are more lies that you have been assuming to be truth than you've ever realized. In fact, I can guarantee you there are lots and lots of lies that you haven't shone the light of truth on and come to an understanding of what the true reality is. I would love for you to have the experience of that. Since puberty, I have suffered symptoms of metabolic dysfunction, and then later on, I began to suffer symptoms of autoimmune. I never really found a lot of support in the medical profession, nor with my family members. I tackled everything on my own. I found solutions. Keto and then carnivore really have helped me solve the problems. I never ever wanted to consider myself as a sick person. I was just suffering symptoms, and I just needed to find out what was causing them. What's been the matter with me? Hormonal imbalance, pre-diabetic fatty liver, PCOS, lipedema and lymphedema, trigger thumb and gout, high blood pressure, chronic fatigue and memory shortfalls, depression and anxiety and isolation, excess perspiration and toileting anxiety, IBS and glyphosate irritation, sciatica hip pain and knees and ankles weak, severe gum disease and bone loss, indigestion, reflux, trapped gas, cystic acne and eczema, skin tags and keratosis pilaris, oxalate dumping, weather headaches, and trauma-induced obesity.
We traveled a road that got a little curly at times, and looking at you used to make me feel all little girly in my mind. And I do wish you would, you could prefer me, so I'd rather believe, oh, we're not late to door, we're just a little early. So I'd rather believe, oh, we're not late to door, we're just a little early.
Well, good morning, everyone. I feel like I'm at the principal's office. I've got a list. It's a pretty long list. This is the list of symptoms that I can remember, because I don't know if I can remember all of them. It's been a really long time. It's been a long life thus far, and I'm only halfway through. So let's go through the list, see what happens. So I haven't really emotionally connected to the struggles because I haven't really had anyone to talk to about these struggles. I've just struggled and worked out solutions and been a trooper. So I'll go through them, hopefully sort of in the order that I've put them in the clip that you've been watching, the scrolling list. So let's talk about dysregulated hormones, because that is probably one of the beginning symptoms that was really hard, really, really hard for me. So I began to put on excessive weight come puberty in my life, which came quite early at the age of 12. I honestly didn't have anyone to talk to about any of this. So my best friend's mother, when I was in grade 6, asked if I would like her to take me to the bra shop, and she bought me my first bra. I had a stepmother of sorts, the first one, who before I received my first period, gave me a packet of sanitary pads, and told me put them in my cupboard because one day soon I will need them. And this is what happens when you get a little older, as a girl gets older and turns into a young woman. She then proceeded to keep stealing them from me each month, just one or two, until there was none left. And then when it was my time to actually need them, they weren't there. So I had to go and steal her tampons. So this was my childhood. I think my hormones were dysregulated because of constantly being in this fight or flight situation. My family structure changed all the time. So when I was 1, my mother died. We moved in with my grandparents because my father didn't know how to parent. A year later, we moved out into our own place. I had a nanny. Until I was 8, I had a nanny. I had 2 different nannies. The nannies had their own child and lived across the stairwell. So we lived in an apartment and they lived in the apartment across from us. That was for about 6 or 7 years. When I was 8, my father moved us in with his girlfriend, who also had a child, and we amalgamated the family. That was for about 6 years. That was the whole pad tampon swapping thing. Then there was disruption to that. That was quite traumatic for me. I remember crying in the middle of the night, my father coming in because of the crying and not knowing what to do with me crying. That's the only memory I have. And also I have a memory of saying goodbye to my stepmother and never seeing her again. That was pretty hard. After that, the real stress began then because I was 12 and we were separating. The family was splitting, and I had to cook. I had to learn how to cook in a microwave because that's what my father decided. And I had to cook for my father, myself, and my brother every single night. Occasionally, we would get takeaway. I also had to go to school. I also had to catch a bus that took an hour to get to my school and an hour back, plus the whole school day, plus cooking. And then weekends, I had to help do the washing. And then one night a week, I had to go and do the shopping. Everything had to be calculated and organized. And my father still didn't know how to parent. The only assistance we had was someone who came and cleaned the apartment for us once a week. So this kind of stress doesn't help a person when their hormones are adjusting and changing and their body is changing, and that's affecting their moods and their mind and their psychology, and it's a whole big mess. And I got bigger and I got bigger and I got bigger. I think by the time I was about 16, I was probably a good solid size 18, maybe bordering on a 20. I then, at the end of my high school years, I decided to go to the gym. I discovered aerobics and dancing and music. So I whipped these off and got contact lenses because these just bounce around when I jump around. And I went to aerobics classes every day after school. And then I got so addicted to the exercise that I went to they were circuit classes where you use machines and timing and there's music and people, and I was getting smaller and I enjoyed getting smaller. I would ride my bike to school, which is just up the road at that point, and my body felt really good. And the only response I got from my family, I didn't get, Joanna, are you paying attention to your schoolwork? Because, you are in year 12. No, not a word. You're losing weight too quickly. This is terrible. This is bad for you. I've had many responses from many, many people very close to me throughout my whole entire journey, starting at that point, where there's a negative response when I lose weight. And now at this point in my journey where I'm 51 and I've kind of wiped the floor clean of all of these people who give me any of these kind of anxiety, their own anxiety responses about what I'm doing in my life, I kind of think, wow, they really, really were influential people in my world. They had authority voices in my world, and they were emotionally blackmailing me to stay fat. Pretty much why they're not in my world anymore, yes? Nothing like warm water with a bit of salt in it. My tongue would like something different, but my goals do not allow for it. So the hormonal dysregulation really started there, and I had terribly painful periods every month, probably until I was thoroughly, probably nearly at my carnivore, maybe right on the turning point of when I turned away from plants completely and just went carnivore. Carnivore really has, if it's done nothing else, it's a blessing that it's amazingly helped me create this really amazing balance, hormonal regulation in my body. Whatever was, the trauma was definitely causing cortisol to rise and adrenaline at times to rise significantly. And that creates blood sugar. And then you get insulin and you're getting inflammation and you're putting on, I've had times where I'm losing muscle mass and gaining fat mass because of anxiety. So yes, we can't say that that doesn't exist. It does. However, the plants were hurting me. And I didn't know because nobody knew. So there's no laying blame anywhere. That's just what it was. So I went from thinking my whole entire reproductive life is going to be monthly taking naprogesic and Nurofen constantly for, every 8 hours for 3 days every month. And I did used to do that. I would never take it any other time. Never had any other real pain. Occasionally I'd get a headache, and I would often get a headache either at the beginning of my period or the end of my period. Now that I've been carnivore for at least 5 years, and everything has just slowly petered out. Everything's calm. Everything is on time. Everything is, I don't even know it's coming. I have to listen in my body really, really, really carefully. And if there's a little tweak, careful, better get organized. I actually have to look in my calendar now to think, better be ready for tomorrow, day after. It'll be here soon. And now that I'm 51, it's starting to come a week early, come 2 weeks late, might miss one altogether. So, this is perimenopause. But I couldn't be happier with the result. And if that was the only thing that was wrong with me and carnivore fixed that, be dancing on tables, really. That's every single month. Pain, draining energy, and I don't have that problem anymore. Well, that's one thing off the list. Did we stop there? No. You want me to keep going? All right, I'm going to have a little break and then we'll come back for the next one. Right, let's tackle obesity. Wouldn't it be great just to go, done? Now, I started getting bigger at puberty. And then I dropped weight when I was 17 or 18 by going to the gym. dancing the weight off my body. I also did these diet shake things, and I would eat a lot less because I felt really good and I was burning body fat, so I didn't need to eat. So I didn't spend my money on canteen food. I just ate when I got home, and then I ate a bit of dinner, and I did lots of exercise, and I went down to a size 12. So I went from about an 18 to a size 12, and you could see a big, big difference. However, then I left high school. I went to university to become a teacher, and chips and gravy at the cafe. Yeah. You could have chips and gravy for $2. $2. Unbelievable. The junk that they sold us. Anyway, after a couple of years of university, eating on the run, eating while I'm driving, eating junk food because I'm busy and I'm driving here and there and I've got lots going on in my life, I was probably up at a size 20. And that's where I stayed. When I started working professionally as a teacher, I obviously stopped being so busy running around juggling lots and lots of different little jobs, and I just had normal hours, and my weight sort of stabilized, and I might have done a few things here and there to, like minor starvation diets for times, but when they involve carbohydrates, you're not satisfied, so you end up breaking the you calorie restrict, and then you overeat because you're starving. So there's no stability in doing it that way, and that's what happened in my body. There was no stability. But when you're a size 18 to 24, in that range, you just wear tents that cover everything. And if you happen to lose weight, well, you might wear a nicer top that shows your curves. But generally, you can just hide it all. I also have a body shape. Oh, sorry about the microphone there. I have a body shape where I'm very large here. And so I have a bit of a shelf at the front to drape the clothing. So unless I wear stretchy clothing, you can't see that my stomach is out as far as my breasts. I have the ability with my shaped body, which has a very small rib cage and a very small natural waist and pretty much a little bit of hips and then straight up and down with the legs. So that's what my body was like as an adult around age 18, before I put the weight back on. I'm usually like that, and when I'm fat, I'm like that. And it's really, really hard for people to recognize how overweight I actually am unless I'm wearing very tight clothes and I don't cover. So my point is, and then nothing worked to really lose weight other than eating less carbohydrates and trying to move more. Now, as you get older, the moving more is harder. And I was never, ever a person to do high impact because you'll see on my list, I had sore knees and ankles, and my hips weren't really great. My joints have not been awesome. So I've really shied away from all that high impact stuff because I don't want my knees to wear out and then I can't walk at all, no matter what size I am or what weight I am. So I had to do it through diet. I could do it a little bit through exercise. I could build muscle. My body's really good at building muscle. It's kind of like a fast muscle building body if I eat the protein. But it really only showed evidence when I cut out all the carbohydrates, because I have a sneaking suspicion that because of the anxiety, which is chronic, and it has been chronic from the age of 3 until, well, probably beginning of this year. That's a lot of years. That's quick maths. I'm 51. So the chronic nature of the anxiety has trained my body systems to react in certain ways, to be really at the ready. So if I eat anything that has any carbohydrates in it, my pancreas is like, oh, we're ready to go. Insulin, boom, 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 boom. Because it's had to be at the ready. And so it's really, really energetic. Now, there was a time when we get to the thing on the list that says diabetes or pre-diabetes. There was a time where my pancreas was pumping out the insulin, and my cells were just, nah. We got no room. We don't know where to put all that sugar. So it's just going to roam around in the bloodstream. And I realized this when I was on a dance camp. I was learning how to salsa, which is really a lot of fun. I look forward to getting back to that. You know, it's low impact. You don't have to jump around. You're on the ground there. So I was on a dance camp and I told them I don't eat carbohydrates. They couldn't work it out. They made me gluten-free lasagna. Now, if you know anything about gluten-free products, because I'm wheat-free. Sorry, I keep touching the microphone. I'm wheat-free, but nothing to do with gluten. It's the carbohydrates in the wheat and it's the glyphosate in the wheat for me. And I've tested this and I know that this is what it is. Italian flour. If you ever want to eat flour and you can't have normal flour because it gives you gut problems, Italian flour doesn't have the glyphosate in it, but it does have all the carbohydrates in it. And you know what else has all the carbohydrates in it? Gluten-free flour. They take out the gluten, so gram for gram, you have more carbohydrates in the one lasagna sheet. So here I was eating because I felt bad. That's back when I actually felt bad. Now I don't feel bad about saying, no, I'm not going to put that in my mouth. You don't have to live in this body, I do, kind of answer. But I did. I felt bad because they went to all this effort to cater it for me. And I went, oh, just have a little bit. So I just ate a little bit. Well, what overweight person is a moderator? You know, like seriously, how ridiculous. So I can't moderate. I'm having just a little bit. I'm psychologically lying to myself. I'm not just having a little bit. I ate the whole thing. I felt so ill. My brain, my body was reacting to all this sugar in my system. It was entering into my bloodstream and affecting my brain so badly. First time ever, I got up from the table and I said, I've got to go. And I walked up a hill for half an hour to burn it off. I kept walking up that hill until I didn't feel dizzy anymore. And then I slowly walked down the hill. That was a really pivotal experience because I realized one false move and you're gonna flip your whole world from being a person who's managing the pre-diabetic state to a person who is not managing it and is going to be deemed diabetic. And it was at that point that I decided no more being nice. I have to not eat any carbohydrates and keep it with the vegetables. And then it wasn't long after that wasn't too many years after that I ended up going carnivore and left all those plants behind. The other thing that I want to mention about the obesity before we move on to some more detailed things is that the medical profession has systematically blamed every symptom that I have brought to a doctor on my obesity. They're blaming symptoms on a symptom. And this is why I don't have a great deal of respect for doctors in general, but I do have great respect for doctors who understand the metabolic problem, the societal food supply problem. Be very wary when people blame a symptom on another symptom, because all it is passing the buck. What's the cause of this symptom? What's the cause of all the symptoms? And that's what I was interested in finding out, because as you will find out, I'll go a little quicker in the next bit, I had a lot of symptoms. So, high blood pressure. Before I became ill after taking a COVID shot, and I had significantly life-threatening high blood pressure, I had just mildly high blood pressure all the time. Granted, I discovered later that I really don't like doctors, and there's this thing called white coat syndrome, which is I don't like being here and you're taking my blood pressure while I'm a little aggravated, so it's going to be high. I don't like being in your doctor's office. I don't like the fact that you're going to tell me things I don't want to hear. I don't like your solutions. I'm usually here under duress. My blood pressure is now just fine. Fatty liver. I found that out when they were scanning my heart because they needed to find out why I was so sick, except I told them, you're not going to find it the way that you would usually find it. And guess what? I found out that I had fatty liver, but we also found out that there was nothing particularly wrong with me according to the tests that Medicare likes to pay for. Okay, another thing that happened from the blood pressure medication was a thing called trigger thumb. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'd never heard of it before. A friend of mine who was also taking some medication had the same thing happen. She had to have a cortisone injection in hers to get movement to come back, and it's all come back, which is wonderful. I didn't have any medication to fix mine. I stopped taking the drugs that were depositing in my joints. Trigger thumb is a bit like how gout occurs only in your toe, and somehow this part and up into here becomes stiffened and inflexible and painful through other medications. It took a really long time to unjunk it, but I used the same method as I used for the gout that came from taking blood pressure medications. I use physical manipulation to open up the joints and allow things to move around. And I also ate a carnivore diet to not put more junk in. And it took a really long time, and it was really painful when it was at its worst. But now I don't even remember. It doesn't even remind me that I ever had a problem. I'm going to come back to my joints because they're kind of not caused directly the same as all the other things. Okay, PCOS, however, that's part of the hormonal dysregulation. One part of the PCOS symptoms is the cystic acne. And now that I have dropped dairy, I am not getting that coming at all. So now my skin can just start clearing and cleaning and repairing, which is so wonderful because, that's hard work. Okay, here's a big one. Lipedema. Now, I never knew about lipedema until I was going through this health journey and YouTubing, and up came this thing called lipedema. And it turns out, as there's not a lot of information out there on lipedema, but it is out there. And Dr. Ben Bickman speaks a bit about lipedema and made a lot of sense to me what he was saying, as well as some others. Lipedema seems to be connected to autoimmune and connected to metabolic problems, and also connected to your fascia, which is your connective tissue in your body, one part of your connective tissue in your body. So when you have lipedema, the fat cells are bound up inside thickened fascia. So fascia is like a net, like, you know how you buy your oranges, or we don't buy the oranges, but people buy oranges in a net so the fruit can still breathe. The fascia holds everything together. So the bones will hold you up, and the muscles are like pulleys, and the fascia just puts a net around it to hold everything together, and so it works well. However, some people who suffer from lipedema have this net, which is made up of collagen. Yeah, so it's flexible, but sort of rubbery. Yeah, it's a flexible, rubbery kind of net. Now, with lipedema, it thickens in certain places, like your arms, yeah, and your thighs, and around your hips. So if you look at and it usually happens with women, which tells you something to do with hormonal dysregulation, and perhaps it's also gut problems. No one's really totally clear why it happens, but my suspicion is that it is metabolically driven, and also hormonally driven, and I also believe that it is somewhat genetically, there's a genetic predisposition, because I have exactly the same body shape and lipedema profile as my mother's mother. And I can't tell whether my mother would have had lipedema because she was only 30 when she died. So I have to go back in generations. Lipedema. It makes it really hard to get the fat moving out of those fat cells that are embedded inside the fascia, the collagen netting. So if you are suffering from lipedema, understand that you might have to do other things to help those areas of your body to understand that they have to jiggle more, they have to move the fat around, and physical manipulations are, I think they're not a bad idea. Lymphedema, which is a retaining of fluid, I've had that, well, whenever I've been overweight, I've had that sort of thick ankle thing. Since I've given up dairy, my ankles have gotten thinner. So there you go. There is a reaction to dairy, and I never wanted to admit it. My gosh, I never wanted to give up dairy. I really, really like it. It's like chocolate used to be a sometimes food, and dairy is now, for now, it's a never food, and maybe later it might be a sometimes food. Okay, chronic fatigue. I suffered chronic fatigue several times in my journey. The first time, granted, I was delving deep into some really, really horrific emotions that hadn't been felt, and I wasn't used to feeling emotions, and I had to isolate, and I was somewhat depressed, and I had to ration my energy. So if I wanted to go for a walk, I couldn't really do anything else physical that day. If I wanted to go swimming, make sure you've cooked your food and everything's done, because when you get back from swimming, when I got back from swimming, I need to sleep and I need to eat and I can't do anything else. And there was a lot of Netflix watched. There were many, many years where I couldn't work because of all of this. And for someone who's as intellectually driven and curious, and takes so much pleasure in working with other people and helping to bring about change and happiness in people's lives, that was debilitating to not be able to be a teacher, not be able to be a coach. But I rationed my energy and I taught myself and I coached myself, and I did get through that part. And I moved into other challenges where I had less chronic fatigue, but I still had to manage my energy expenditure. I suffered mental slowness and memory issues, along with anxiety. I suffered excess sweating. So this habit that my body has built up, that my nervous system is very easily on edge and very protective of me because it has had to be for a really long time, I will sweat a lot. So my first interview with Dave Mack, I was boiling hot. My glasses were steaming up. I would have to go for a walk and walk for half an hour to get that kind of sweat going. And all it took was a little bit of anxiety, little tiny bit. And I wasn't scared. I was just doing something that might challenge something. And so my nervous system is like, ooh, on alert. The other thing, I don't seem to have that now though, which is really good. So that's changing. And as you can see, I'm pretty reasonable with the talky thing. The other thing that astounds me about how this is all playing out, I used to suffer, and I have suffered from this since I was a teenager, and I think it was because it's connected with my psychology, of course, but it's also physiology. Toileting anxiety. So I don't know if anyone else suffers from this. I've heard of a couple of people just here and there that it's actually a thing. You have a thought that you need to go and do number one, go take a wee. And there's no toilet. That's the next thought. And then you really need to go. And then you can't hold it. And anything that crosses your mind, anything that aggravates you, is going to allow your bladder to just open. And the fear of wetting yourself in public. I have this associated with opening the front door because I know that the toilet is just that far away and I can't hold. And I'm screaming at my dog to get out of the way, out of the way, out of the way. I need to get to the bathroom. And then if I can't get my pants down fast enough, I'm going to wet myself. It was maddening. And sometimes I did wet myself. And that was even more maddening because I'm an adult and I'm wetting myself. It was really, really, really problematic. Now, that's all just about gone. I think it really has gone. Like in the last month, it's just, I can walk in the house. No dairy, no coffee. And somehow I've had this psychological being seen. Multiple times I've been seen for who I am, what I do, recognized. And all of a sudden I just don't think about going to the toilet. Like when I'm coming to the house after going for a walk, or I just don't think about it. And I can't tell you how wonderful that is, because I thought I was going to be an incontinent old person, but now I don't think I'm going to be. I think it was some kind of physiological, psychological, altogether panic, just a panic in my body. The hair thinning, a bit genetic. But I have noticed, when I went carnivore, I got a new little fringe. And I only noticed it, when it comes down to here and I'm blow drying my hair and it's blowing down here. And then when I went grass-fed, the same things happened, a little bit here, but a whole lot in the back. See, look, I've got all this, look how long it is. I've been grass-fed for about 4 or 5 months. Grass-fed. Sounds like I'm a vegan. No, my food is grass-fed. I used to get headaches from weather pressure changing, like a storm coming in. That got really bad when I had the high blood pressure illness. And since going strict carnivore to clear that illness, I don't think I haven't had it. It always surprises me because, the big storms don't come in very often. Why have I got a headache? Why have I got a headache? Oh, the weather pressure's changing. Now, I live in Melbourne. The weather pressure's changing all the time here, and I don't have a problem with it. I don't even get headaches pre and post my period anymore. So if I get a headache, it's very like, wow, what's made that happen? Oh dear, indigestion. I just saw indigestion on the list. Okay. I suffered from indigestion for years. And just like most people who suffer from indigestion, you just take something and you don't realize why you have indigestion, you just have indigestion. Well, I used to get trapped gas in my stomach and I would have to actually breathe in air into my stomach, like to open it to try to get the gas to come out. I would contort my body. It would be so painful when the gas was trapped in my stomach. It would feel like there's pressure in my chest and pains in my chest. Since going carnivore, I've not happened. That's never happened. Now, you know what has happened? I used to get this reflux thing. So at night, it's like the food wouldn't go down. Oh, sorry, microphone. The food wouldn't go down. And I know that it's plants because before I was strict carnivore, I was kind of ketovore and I'd have pickled vegetables. And then I went off eating pickles and I had pickled asparagus and that didn't do anything. But then I found a jar of pickles and I went, oh, I'll eat this up because, it's in the cupboard. And what did I give myself? Reflux. And I went, oh, it's the plants. Again, it's the plants. I have definitely suffered from oxalate dumping. So styes in my eyes and lots of little white pimple-y things. Less and less and less and less and less and less, almost to the point where it's so very rare and very, very minor if it does happen. I have to be careful because I play guitar and I have calluses on these fingertips, and sometimes I have nails on these. And when an oxalate crystal comes up through out of my eye, which they always come through my eyes, I don't know what it is. If I stick my finger in because it's a bit itchy, I can scratch things with the crystals. That's how sharp they are. So, I used to have, when I was a teenager, I had it really bad. What's it called? Keratosis pilaris, which is the dots on your upper arms. That settled down a lot when I was keto. As soon as I went carnivore, that's gone. Same as skin tags. Carnivore, I don't know. I had skin tags and then I didn't have skin tags. They were just gone. I think the last thing on my list, except the knees, was my elbows. Oh my gosh. As a kid, I used to always lay on my bed and do my homework. And I would lean on my elbows. And they would be red and raw and really sore and itchy and flaky. And I thought it was because I was leaning on my elbows. I can lean on my elbows now and no red, no itchy, no sore, no pain. It was the plants. It was the plants. So the last thing I want to talk about is about my knees that always hurt. Okay, so I know that there's an influence to do with the childhood trauma. So if you want to hear me sing about it, you can listen to my album. You can get it through my website, which is joannaruth.online. You can listen for free. The song is called Looking for You There. So I discovered when I was on my journey to heal myself that my postural movement was affected by the fact that I was always looking for where my mother was, which was up in the sky here, just above my head here and a little bit to the left. That's the last place I visually saw my mother. When I was 3, that was the trauma point. And my physical posture, in terms of how I moved and how I sat and how I walked and everything, was twisted so that I had easy access to looking up there. For the last 5 or 6 years, I have been working actively to get this twist out of my body because it makes everything you're not in alignment in your body, so you're going to have pain in your body. My knees don't hurt anymore, but I only got the twist out of my knees. Haven't hurt for years now, walking up and down stairs. When I was a teenager, they used to kill me. My kneecaps were misaligned. That's what the doctor said, the physio said. So the muscles on the inside of my legs were not pulling my kneecaps in for them to be even. I have only truly resolved the twist in my body in the last 2 months, which caused me to have plantar fasciitis in my left foot, incredibly painful. And so the last 2 months I've been dealing with that and dealing with this virus thing that keeps sticking around in my nose. So it's been a bit of a hard winter, to be honest, but nothing's for nothing, because I decided to cut out dairy and cut out coffee and cut out stevia based on the fact that I need the inflammation down in my body so that my foot can heal. And life rolls on and all the right things happen. So my knees always hurt going upstairs or doing any kind of running. I would have to tape my skin across to encourage my kneecaps to be in the middle. I have, since going keto and then carnivore, my knees don't hurt. Up and down stairs don't hurt. So maybe it wasn't about my kneecaps. I don't know. But they don't hurt. I live upstairs. I've lived up and down stairs. I've lived in camper vans and caravans, and my knees don't hurt. My foot is hurting now, but it is getting better. So the muscles are in my left leg and through my hip are all working out what they need to do because they've been doing something different. Everything on my left side acclimatized to this twist, and also my right side acclimatized to my left side, sort of taking a bit of holiday. And so now everything is learning not to be like this, but to be like this. And I notice the difference in the way that I sit in a chair. I notice the difference when I'm walking. I notice the difference when I'm just standing up straight. And I have to say that since cutting out dairy, the inflammation is dropping in my body. The muscles are balancing out in my body much faster than I thought they would. I check whether my hips, when I'm laying on the ground, are my hips balanced? And in the last couple of days, they're just in the right spot. So when I'm walking, they're in the right spot. I think I got to the end of my list. I'm sorry it's taken such a long time and it's such a long video. But I think it's worth at least explaining it once, just the one time. I don't want to go on and on about it. Okay, here's the one more thing. I don't have all these things anymore. I don't have high blood pressure. I'm pretty sure I don't have fatty liver anymore. But one day I'll check. I don't have trigger thumb. I don't have gout. I'm not pre-diabetic. I don't have PCOS symptoms. The cystic acne is the last of them. I really believe that the lymphedema has reduced to nothing, and the lipedema is, well, it's there because it's genetically predisposed and it has built up. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. We shall see. But I think the fat in the fascia, because I use my hands a lot. I trained as a massage therapist at one point with Lomi Lomi massage. Go have one if you haven't had one. It's amazing. But I touch my body a lot to see what's going on. And the areas that were tighter and more structured are softening. So that's promising. That's really promising. And the scale is slowly going down. I bought scales. Fantastic. They've got all this information that I never wanted to know. Chronic fatigue. I am not chronically fatigued. I'm not even fatigued. I don't get the headaches anymore. I'm nowhere near depressed. I am not isolated. I am not mentally slow. I do not have memory issues. I do not have excessive sweating, and I no longer have toileting anxiety. I don't have gut problems because I don't eat plants and all the crap that they put on the plants and in the soil to make the plants sellable. So I don't have IBS symptoms. I don't have glyphosate irritations because I don't eat it. I no longer have, I didn't tell you about this, sciatica and hip pain. I don't have ankle weakness anymore. I don't have severe gum disease anymore. There's no bleeding and there's no further bone loss, which is great. My hair sort of growing in a little bit more. Cystic acne gone. Indigestion never ever happens. Oxalate dumping is it's running its course and it's petering out, which is great. I don't have eczema on my elbows anymore. I don't have the dots on my upper arms, keratosis pilaris, and I don't have any more skin tags. What do I have? I have my life coming back to me. That's what I have. I have more movement. I have more happiness. I have more joy. And I tell you, working with clients again, because I'm not sick and I've got my energy back and I know how all the systems work and I can help people, that is the icing on the cake. It really is. And so I have this carnivore channel. Why? Because I want you to get to know me and how I can maybe help you.